I noticed that on the charts when they show the progressed moon or Saturn or whatever it is, that they'll put the point and then they'll put an arc. Is that just for retrograde or where, like the influence, the orb, or what do they?
I'm not sure what that is.
So
Are you
it's
talking
like
about a
this,
progress?
It's like an arc, yeah, they'll put where Saturn is.
Who's they?
Oh, like I did it online or something, to find
Okay.
where the progressed moon is, and then they'll do the same thing, they'll show where the moon is, but then the arc might be, maybe it's the arc of influence, I don't really understand.
It's the orb?
Or the orb, that's what I meant.
Maybe it's trying to
But-
show you
but
the
it looks
orb.
like an arc, it's an arc.
Yeah, everybody might have their own
I
method,
just
you know,
didn't
so
know.
I can't speak to their method. I just know the exact orbs, I know what they are, and I can,
That's fine.
there's times so it's throw you off. As I said, when we were doing her chart, I was jumping into the chart and forgot about that semi-square. And so it leads you off and you start reading and you don't see the energies that are going on in that chart because you didn't look close enough. But anyway, so...
I'm afflicted right now
Okay.
in Uranus
So Saturn can bring lessons or fair and just rewards. That's what I want to say to you, to that there. It's the Reaper. It's a parody of Santa Claus, old Nick the Devil or Satan. It rewards you if you're good and withholds the good from you if you're naughty. Its influence leads to bring lessons and extracts patience and discipline. Patience and discipline. And that's so important for you right now. And you learned that the other day. Keep my mouth shut. Just don't let somebody get to me. And the thing is, the way Saturn works is, the way Saturn works to get you to fall, okay, and to stumble, is to accuse you. And then what do you do back by nature? You accuse back. That's human nature. So if you didn't do that the other day, remember that? When you were confronted by an accusation that you didn't think was just or fair, is that true?
Yeah, I didn't, but I managed it. I was able to manage it in a correct manner, yeah. I mean,
You did it with maturity. You did it with wisdom. And the fact that you did that allowed you out of that situation that could have compounded. Because if you'd have really wanted to slam them back and say something to them, I don't need you, just get, whatever, right away you would have undone yourself.
Yeah,
So
I had 2 incidents, but I have to tell you something really, just quickly, very bizarre about that whole time, exactly when that happened on that Wednesday. And it sounds so weird, but I was quite angry about the whole thing, but this boiler I had, it kept having to be reset. And I was like, what's going on with this? It's like pretty brand, it's not an old boiler. We had just replaced all the parts like 2 months ago. This is really weird. And then I noticed the water getting extremely hot. And it shouldn't be that hot, like it was steaming. And so I finally called the guy at night, like a couple of days, days later. But, and I said, look, I'm really concerned that this is gonna blow, And we found out the release valve was broken.
Oh, it could have
And
been
it was
dangerous.
totally major, but it was like, that was me too. I had all this pent up, I was just so upset about something. And it was so funny that, there's no coincidence that this happened and my release valve was not working.
Wow.
And I was like,
love
oh my
it, I
God,
like
this
it.
is so weird.
Yeah, no more to release that energy, right?
Exactly.
Are you married?
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say, you have a boyfriend?
I broke up with him.
No, I was too
Careful,
bad, 'cause
get a proposal real
I was
quick.
gonna say, that would be they could
Totally.
help you with the release valve
I
and.
know.
and let us-
I'm working out.
I don't know where he's going with those questions. I'm ready.
You
I'm ready.
gotta
I'm ready
release,
for anything
you gotta
in this
release
room.
yourself Kundalini-wise, with the.
Oh no, Kundalini's gonna get in this one. Oh, you behave, Ed. You behave. Can you imagine having him as a grade school student? Oh.
What is it,
Teacher,
grade
teacher.
school? Oh, I was something else.
into
I was something else,
trouble,
man. In grade school and in high school, they still remember me. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I bet
Holy.
we'll never forget you, believe me, Ed, we won't. So look at this. So the neat thing about this, to understand that energy, is that it's a fairness there. You can see, by the way, Ed was asking about Satan worship. Can you see how early Christians would have interpreted me talking about Saturn or Satan this way? Oh, there's the Satan worshippers over there. They're talking about Satan as being good. Oh, he's Santa Claus, is he? Yeah, well, let's make sure we get these people out of here. That kind of energy comes from Saturn's good or naughty and all that. So Jupiter's called the great of
Hey,
fortune.
Ron, if I could say something about Satan real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Listen,
I know you would. Go
I
ahead.
tell you, no, I'm getting an appreciation for Saturn in this class.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something honestly. That phrase of "know thyself," it must be very associated, affinity with Saturn, that concept, because when you think, if, you're gonna get a hard lesson, and if you're gonna be rewarded if you're, good, or receive if you're bad, in like her situation, or anybody's situation, if you're true to yourself and true to the situation, that's the seed, that's the reward. You're being true to the situation,
Yeah.
and then when you're negative and afraid, then you kind of make excuses, and then that's when you get the hard lesson, because you didn't go through with really what you wanted to do, not selfishly, just the right way. And if we did that and had the guts to just stand up and say, I don't care what they're gonna think if they look at me, and have the guts and say, we'll be a lot happier in life instead of thinking like, and I think that's one thing that I have learned in my life.
Yeah, well, there's a time
It's not to be afraid.
The thing here is about, if we go back to this situation, okay, is go back to scripture. Listen to this scripture. When Michael the archangel, who is Michael? Michael's Mercury, by the way, rational mind, was contending with the devil. Okay, it's like your mind dealing with depression and negative thoughts and all that stuff. Over the body of Moses, well, that happens over the body of Ron or anybody in this room when these two are contending inside you, right? Everybody thinks Moses was laid out on a slab and he was dead, and these two angels, that's how the artists have it depicted, two angels over him with swords fighting the devil and Michael the archangel. But actually they were talking about in here, when Michael the archangel was contending with the devil over the body of what, Ron or Moses, he did not hurl forth a railing accusation against the devil. He simply said, let the Lord judge thee. Listen to the wisdom of Michael. Michael knew that if he accused Satan or the devil, the accuser, if he accused the accuser, he now is the accuser. And isn't that the first thing we want to do when somebody accuses us? We want to accuse back. Watch the dynamics. I was watching the show yesterday about a couple, the guy that goes in and saves businesses, and they were screaming at each other and making all sorts of accusations, and about her doing this in the toilet with somebody, and this, honest to God, and this is on TV and they're being recorded, and I'm thinking, man, listen to these two, the evil devil working back and forth. And I always am amused by people that say, God's within. And people accept that. And I say, where do you think the devil is? He's within you too when you're accusing, when you're in that spirit of accusation. So we need to keep that in mind, that when we see these things going on, and recognize the spirit we're dealing with, okay? And so you, again, were a champion. You held it right. Okay, are we moving? I think we're making a lot of progress. We should stop and grab a bite. You want to?
10 minutes.
10 more minutes, Selena says, okay. Mars brings energy.
Jupiter?
Mars brings Jupiter, we talked about. Oh, didn't we?
No.
Great fortune. Depending on its aspects, it can bring fortune, fame, and good luck. If it's afflicted, it tends to bring excesses and extremes that can cause loss and disfavor. One of the reasons why I've got to be careful as a gambler, and thank God I've got good intuition, because Jupiter and Venus in my chart are afflicted, squaring with Neptune and with my moon. And that can bring excesses. And my risk-taking can go to extremes. I mean, I can remember sitting down and losing $13,000 in 10 minutes. And my daughter was with me, and I'd given her $500 to gamble with. She was winning like crazy. Larissa, she's the lucky little Leo. But I remember getting up off the table and just kind of shocked because I was doubling bets. And I said, can I go another round? It's going to be $26,000 if I do it another time. And but I want it all back. But the risk-taking part of me is there, and I've got to be aware of it. It's like the extremes with Venus, which is money. There's always that risk. You see, in Neptune and that cross is what? Self-undoing? I could undo myself. So, it's something that when we used to go to Vegas, we lived in California, we'd go there, I would make as much money as we had to have for that trip. If the trip was going to cost me the drive and the gas and the food and the hotel was going to cost me $800 or $900, I would just win that much or more and then quit. I learned when to say no and back off, But when it comes to Venus and Jupiter, they can always be extreme. That's what I'm trying to say. Venus afflictions can cause an excessive what? Sweets.
So if you would have Uranus you would be an addict gambling.
Uranus, not necessarily.
Why?
Huh?
Uranus wouldn't take you to be addicted to gambling.
Uranus isn't necessarily addictions. Neptune more that way. Oh, but you know what? Actually, I shouldn't disregard that. I'll tell you why it could be right. Uranus loves excitement that is extreme. It loves things that are it's very stimulating to the nervous system, you know.
Right.
Unconventional, all those things. So I wouldn't say that, yeah, you know, to say that it wouldn't. Uranus can do some havoc if it's afflicted, you know, absolutely can. And it can produce sudden unexpected things that you wouldn't expect. Setbacks and things that
But
happen.
the fact that you could say no when you had the money of your expenses is showing that you were very conscious of what the gambling could bring.
Yeah. Well, that was after, I started doing that after years of winning good money.
Okay.
I did. I mean, we came down here we were coming through Canada when we moved to Boston. So we went through Niagara Falls and made a nice trip out of it. And there was a nice casino there. I stopped and won a couple $1,000s in an hour. I just walked out of there with it. I mean, it was, you know, free money. I just walk in and get out. But the thing is that Elena knows. I mean, there's sometimes like I said, why didn't you just go gamble? You got all these casinos. I said, I can't do it anymore because I'm scared. I haven't got the backup. I haven't got the resources. If I know I can fall back on something and I can double my money or I can, you know, take a risk and not worry about it, then I'll do it. But if I'm thinking, geez, if I did that, we might not pay our rent next month, I couldn't gamble that way at all. But back when I was doing it, I was making $250,000 a year, you know, on info commercials. So, anyway, enough of all that stuff. So, let's go back to Jupiter. We're talking about excesses, extremes, can cause loss and disfavor through extremes, okay? Jupiter is the planet that wants to do things in a big way. If it's in a chart and it's afflicting, it might mean that there's a lot of exaggeration of the truth. You've got to be careful with that. Jupiter can be boastful and proud, and it can also be stretch the truth a little bit. Jupiter's good at that, okay? So Mars brings energy, action, drive, and have a planet in all aspects. It may be marring, injurious energy that rages with anger or wounds and cuts, or just may be incentive needed to get things moving in the right area of its influence. Rash and hasty actions taken without forethought and action can be produced by this energy when afflicted. For example, in my own chart, I know I have Mars squaring my Sun and Mercury. Is that good? It could be. It forces me to get my life moving. It forces me to learn. I have to be, you know, my mind needs a lot of activity. I told you I stuttered till I was, what, 12 years old? What is speech, Mercury? What's Mars? Mars your speech. And why did I stutter? Because I would always, my words were coming out so fast I couldn't control it, you know? My mind and my speech were mixed up. So my father would say, stop. When I start stuttering, he'd say, stop, think what you're going to say and say it again. And that helped me a lot. He made me slow down. Because my mind's racing so fast. So even today I talk fast. Even up here I'm probably talking fast. My wife notices when I get hungry. She says, you're talking fast, you should stop and eat. And I get upset. And then she gets my Mars up. Then she gets my Mars anger up. Don't tell me when to eat. I'm not hungry.
Well, don't worry, you got 2 more minutes.
Better talk fast. So whatever we got here is any Mars can mar something, injure it. It can cause problems with jumping before you think, doing things without thinking things through. In the part of the body that it governs in a chart, it often indicates cuts or wounds or something. The Mars in the Gemini can be danger to the lungs. It can be danger or cuts or wounds or scalds or burns, which is what Mars does. On the arms and the hands. Okay, I think we saw that in your chart, right? So she had the wound or scar on her arm. The point being, she also had, it's okay to talk about it. So can we talk about her tonight?
Yeah,
You know,
go ahead.
But she had Mars and Gemini. First thing I said, never smoke. She's like, quit 2 years ago, or a year, whatever. So the fact that she quit, thank God for that, because anybody has Mars and Gemini is very susceptible to danger to their lungs. Very much dangerous position. So I advise anybody that has Mars and Gemini to be careful with that. Or Mars afflicting, and like I have Mars squaring my Sun, but I have it squaring Mercury. Mercury is another, we're Mercury, Gemini, and third house, right? We're back to those three things. If I have Mars squaring Mercury, there's danger to my lungs, okay? Because Mercury rules your lungs, right? Just like Gemini does. So I remember when I was working, when I got out of prison, I got a story with everything, don't I? When I was in prison, I remember I got out and I was working for a road gang, jackhammer, sledgehammer, hard work. I mean, 12-hour days, breaking up cement all day, you know, and I mean, it was tough. And I'd get home, I'd be almost too tired to eat. And my hands were blistered to the bone, literally, not figuratively, blistered to the bone. Because my hands never calloused. My whole life, I could never get them to callous and become hard. So the guys at work, just go home and soak them in salt water, they'll get tough. I'd go soak them and they just ulcerate and get worse.
Oh.
So anyway, but I never complained, I never said a word. The boss found out about it, somebody told him, came over, said, let me see your hands, Watson. I said, nah, take your gloves off. No, I'm fine. He finally pulled them off and you get over to dispensary right now. So again, that's Mars and rules the hands. Mercury, Gemini, hands. Not only that, I was out on the workforce one day and they put acid down on the road, and they didn't give us masks or anything. And I inhaled all those acids. I broke out with a fever that night. It scarred my lungs with that acid. Had to go to the hospital. If today I'd probably have them in court for millions of dollars. You know, back then, you know, it's tough luck around you. But the point is that these are all indicators that you need to be careful. You know, I have a hard time getting around smoke, even if I'm around it. Somebody else is smoking, it really gets to my lungs very quickly. So we need to be aware that these energies are there in the chart. They're warnings, kind of like, it's written in the stars so that them that run may read, the scripture says. So them that run may read. Okay? So it says he's created the sun, the moon, the stars for signs and for seasons, not just for seasons. Okay? All right.
Hey, Ron?
Venus aspects. This harmonizes, beautifies, and brings peace and love into play. Can be Cupid's arrow that titillates and excites, or a pleasant, harmonious union of particular edification. Venus may imbue one with the wonders of sunset or bring gifts and sweets into our experience. Venus is harmony, love, beauty, all things that we find sweet and endearing, if you would. And so if you have a strong Venus in your chart, what happens with that is it's in a powerful position. I was blessed, I have Venus rising in my chart in the east. I was born with it rising in the east. And that gives the good countenance, good balance in my body. It wasn't until I got older. Good harmony, good form, good everything. You know, proportions, that's what Venus brings. Beauty of proportion. Did you know that beauty is proportion? Did you know that? It really is?
Yeah, it's mathematical.
It's a mathematical formula, yeah. So, you know, the Da Vinci's Divine Man, that's perfectly calculated with that proportion. So, anyway, the space between here to here and all this, it's all measured out. So, what we see is beautiful is, and you know, my nose on your face might look terrible, but on my face it's okay, it's proportionate, you know. So, we're dealing with energies that are Venus of harmony, balance, all those things that we talk about when we talk about beauty. So, Mercury, the messenger of the gods, the energy that influences communication, short journeys, witty interchanges, and facilitates learning and mental pursuits. Notice the subconscious symbol is dominated by the conscious symbol over the body and the senses. Remember to never forget this. I can't emphasize the language of the planets. It's so important. You got the subconscious, the conscious, and the body. I told you it's like driving. You learn to drive. You drove over here mostly unconscious. Of course, a lot of people really are unconscious when they drive. But this is a simple of actions that you don't think through all the time because it's coming from the subconscious. It's all automatic actions. And that's how the mind, so the subconscious, the conscious to the physical body. The cross is the body. So that's how communication is working from the subconscious conscious. So when you learn something, memorize something, that's the process right here.
So you're saying the subconscious dominates, not is dominated, which is what you've got
Yes,
over there.
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, whereas if you want to look at the domination of things, look at Mars, it's dominate, we use an arrow, but it's a cross really. Okay, Venus is the other way around. Venus says what? Venus is the spirit dominating the flesh. Mars is the flesh dominating the spirit. Mars said, let's get it on, girl. Yeah, and then Venus says, let's put love first. That's the difference between the two energies. And all the planets are like that. Neptune, my God, look at Neptune. Huh? We got the soul is being pierced together, pierced through. The soul is being pierced through by the cross. And that's really what suffering's about when we talk about a person that goes into a monastery to subject themselves to deprivation and to want, all for the name of what? Purifying the soul. I'm going to crucify myself and put myself through a great amount of agony and pain for God's sake, okay? So that's really what you're seeing there. The soul's being crucified because it's being pierced. It's not just sitting on top of a cross. It's going through the soul. It's like those people in some countries that flagellate themselves and beat themselves and get up on crosses and put nails in your hand. You know what I mean? All because they want to worship somehow their God. So, always know those when you look at these things. See how many ways, if you think about it, we're back to the three again. Subconscious, conscious, physical form. Sign, planet, house, three again. Think about the opportunities of understanding and the comprehension that you can gain by understanding all this, putting it together. And it takes a mind that can pull it all together. Integrate it, okay? And when we say integrate it, it's a synthesis, a synthesizing it all, bringing it all into a meaning. That's why computers only can do so much. No computer's ever going to replace you as an astrologer. Okay? Okay. The moon said to be pure, receptivity. It's not an energy so much as a receiver of that which aspects it. It's the pure vessel that picks up the other planet's energies and messages. Remember I said that to you earlier. The moon is neutral. It's basically sucking up everything. It's just pure receptivity. So it doesn't afflict anything, but something might afflict it. The soul might be afflicted by Saturn, or the soul might be afflicted by Mars. But it's not afflicting anything else. It's not going the other way. Okay? And the sun, like to be loved, light and heat, it's the spark of divine in each of us. It aspected well, it can make for a wonderful love-filled life. That's what that does when it's in that grand trine in your chart, or whatever aspect it's making like that. Okay? It can make a wonderful love-filled life. If poorly aspected, it can cause us to be driven Mars or blessed by Jupiter, uprooted by Uranus, thwarted and challenged by Saturn. Look at these words. You start to understand the language of those planets when you look at that and read that. How we express the sun or our life is affected by the sun's placement and aspects in our chart. But look at what's, if poorly aspected, it can cause us to be driven, which is Mars, it drives you. It forces you. I have Mars square my sun and Mercury. It's always driven me to learn and to grow in knowledge. Okay, learn. I'm a good student. I love to study. I love to read, but I'm not good at, if you sit me down and say, let's study geography today, I'm not interested, thank you. Give me a subject I'm interested in, you can't stop me, you know? And that doesn't always make for the best school student, but, you know. So Uranus uprooted. Uranus likes to do that, get uprooted, if you would. Okay. Okay, so I think we went through all of those pretty well. So we did, we just finished. How was that for timing? So let's take a break and have some food. It smells awful good.